What is going on, FTN? Happy Sunday. 5-game NBA slate on tap. We are in the middle of a 2-game afternoon slate. Showdown slate that just locked 2 minutes ago. I am your host, Joe Metz, joined by my good friend, Kyle Murray, the projections wizard. Kyle, how are you this Sunday? Big slate with the Pistons, or the Pistons play tomorrow, excuse me. So not a big slate for you today, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's true. I'm a little devastated. The guy that I had an outright bet on in golf just finished second place. He had a
Gary
17
Woodland?
foot. No, it was Hovland.
Okay.
Hovland was up there all weekend, man, and then on the weekend he kind of fell apart. And he had a chance to take the lead or tie for the lead again on 18, and he missed a 17-footer. So it's tough, man. Last week I had Daniel Berger and he absolutely plummeted, blew a 5-stroke lead going into Sunday, and then today with Hovland. But hey, we have basketball to recover, so I'm excited about that.
We do. Yeah, this PGA slate, I feel like I got 6 of 6 through, and then Saturday and Sunday combined, my guys were all like plus 10 on the weekend. It was pretty brutal.
Yeah, of course, was tough.
Yeah, it was. So let's dive in. Like I said, pretty calm 5-game slate. Not a ton of news. We just got the update that Scotty Barnes is starting at point guard for the Raptors. So first game on the slate is the Grizzlies taking on the Rockets in Houston. 11-point road favorites are the Grizzlies and John Morant with a 238-point total. Dennis Schroeder has been ruled out for the Rockets. So I'll toss it to you, Kyle. Where are you starting with this game? I guess, let's start at the top with John Morant and then go from there.
Yeah, so I guess like the main concern is the potential, fear of a blowout, 10.5 point spread. So that's definitely something to think about. But last game we saw John and the Grizzlies blow out their opponent. They still were fine. At least some of them were. My thing is though, he played 27 minutes in that blowout game against Orlando. He scored, right around 40 points. Probably not going to kill you on a smaller slate, but you definitely are hoping for a closer game and getting more points there. So that's the main concern. So if I do play Ja, it's probably alongside Houston Rocket or 2, just to kind of correlate the lineups a little bit better. But I don't think you necessarily need to do that. I think that you can play Ja. I hope that he's the highest scoring player. Maybe he has one of those games bunched into where he's super productive on 30 minutes rather than the 35, 36. But I also like a couple of other guys. I like Bane quite a bit on Fanduel. He's 5,600 over there. 6K on DraftKings. I like him a good amount. Jaron Jackson Jr. I think is in play, but I'm just a little worried about his consistency. And obviously we kind of have gotten that from him from the past. But when he gets the minutes, man, he's really going to be in good spots most nights to perform because he's such a good permanent producer. He's just up and down with his minutes because of the foul trouble. So those 3 are guys I'm totally fine with. If you're looking to play a little bit of a blowout narrative, someone like D'Anthony Melton or even Tyus Jones could be somewhat in play, but I think I prefer playing the blowout narrative on the other side of this game here if I were going to be doing so. But this is just a really good game. Both teams are in the top 5 in terms of pace, so it should be very up and down and back and forth and with a lot of possession. So it is super intriguing, probably tough to avoid the game in general on a 5-game slate. But I think that this particular game is one that I would love. The only concern I have is the blowout, but on a 5-game slate, you're kind of just ignoring that in my opinion.
Yeah, especially on a slate where you look at the spend ups, and John Morant's the second most expensive player on the slate. So it kind of just illustrates the nature of the personnel on the slate. And looking at Memphis and Houston, I like Jaron Jackson quite a bit at his price in tournaments. But like you said, the consistency's been tough because last game was his first game with less than 4 fouls in over a week. Yeah. He's had 5 or more fouls in 3 of his last 5 games. Like, he is still just such a hack. But if he can stay out of foul trouble, which this is a front court, we may see that come to fruition. This is a front court that I think he can absolutely brutalize against Houston. Steven Adams, I'm okay passing on for the price at sitting at 6-1. The floor is just too low. I like the Desmond Bane call a lot. And then I also on the Houston side, with Dennis Schroeder out, I do have a little more interest in Kevin Porter Jr., especially on FanDuel for sub 6K. He's locked into 30 plus minutes. No Schroeder just illustrates more point guard opportunity for Kevin Porter. So he would be my favorite player on the Rockets. I think from there, followed by probably, it's ugly, but Eric Gordon for 4-3 is playing a lot of minutes. And if he gets his shot to fall, he can really benefit. But I have no interest really in Jalen Green at 5'6". Christian Wood's fine, but without power forward eligibility, it's a little harder for me to justify him. So any of these ancillary guys before we move on to the Utah game?
Porter would probably be my favorite one from Houston. I think that there are a couple of guys that you mentioned, Eric Gordon being one that I think is a pretty strong play on FanDuel, 3,900 over there. So totally fine with that price. So I like him. And then Şengün also is in play. I think if you wanted to, play a little bit of the blowout narrative as well. Again, five game slate, you could probably do worse. Like he's a really good per minute guy. Super frustrating rostering him because you think he's deserving of more minutes and he doesn't really get them. But, for example, last game he played 22 minutes. He was right around 30 fantasy points. 2 games ago, got 21 minutes. He was around 35 fantasy points. So when he gets those minutes, they're there. So if you want to play that narrative, hoping that it's that night where he gets 20 plus, he has the upside to, be, a guy that you need, or I guess maybe not need, but is a very strong value option being only a 5-game slate.
Yeah. I agree. I think we're in lockstep on this first game. So let's move on to a game with a little more news. Utah at Oklahoma City. The Jazz on the road, 13.5-point favorites, 221-point total. Mike Conley out for rest. Obviously no more Joe Ingles there, no more Elijah Hughes there. So we have gotten word that Trent Forrest will be stepping in for the resting Mike Conley, $3,100 on DraftKings. So start with Utah and start with Trent Forrest. What are you projecting from a minute standpoint? Because this is like on a small slate, 3-1's a pretty good value, right?
Yeah, for sure. He was projecting as, I think, one of the best value plays throughout the day, and I think he might still be up there. He's projecting currently as the best value play. So I think he's totally in play. I think that I have him for 26 minutes. He is projecting for a lofty ownership number there, but at 32% ownership, like if he's the value guy that you need in order to make some things work, I think him starting is a really strong start there for him. And then also the fact that it's a game where obviously a pretty solid matchup. And then if the game does go sideways, I don't think he's like going to lose out on minutes because of that. So he's probably one of those guys that's just going to play, a good amount of minutes regardless. And I think actually if the game blows out, I think he actually has that upside for even more. Yeah.
I completely agree. And the more I look at this game, it's an ugly game, but it's becoming kind of stackable because of how thin the slate is. In addition to Trent Forrest, Jordan Clarkson at 5K flat is a screaming value to me on DraftKings. We've seen him get on top of this price continuously with Mike Conley in. With Mike Conley out, he's going to get an incremental bump in minutes. I haven't run the split yet, so I can do that, while we're chatting. But I expect Jordan Clarkson to be one of the more popular plays on the slate. You have him projected as the most popular at 38% ownership, coming in for just under 29 projected fantasy points. That's good for almost 5.8x his salary. So are you in on Jordan Clarkson, or do you think this is chalk you want to avoid?
But I think it's an interesting topic to talk about because he is projecting pretty well, but he's also going to be, like you mentioned, very popular. I think it'd be hard for anybody to be more popular than him just because of, anytime this happens with Clarkson, people want to jam him in. Like anytime anybody on his team no matter where he's been over the last 3 years, as soon as anyone on his team's out, people want to play him because he's typically a guy who really good per minute wise, always has a ton of usage, just doesn't really get massive minutes. So I have him for 28 minutes tonight. I don't know if that's enough to where I need to jam him in, but again, it's a 5-game slate, so there's not going to be a ton of value. I think that a guy that's intriguing here is Bogdanovic, around the same price. He's 500 less than Clarkson. He's on FanDuel. He's 300 more on DraftKings. So that's where I think that could be an interesting pivot. Clarkson, I don't think benefits from, a blowout. I think a lot of times people will wonder if a bench player is going to benefit. I don't think it, will destroy him because he's not going to need the game to go the entire length because he's not going to play a ton of minutes regardless, but he's probably not going to, have a ceiling game because of a blowout. I guess that's how I feel about Clarkson. So overall, I think he's good chalk just because it is a 5-game slate. And I do think he has a ceiling to, have a right around a 1 fantasy point per minute performance. And if that's the case and he plays 28, 29 minutes, then he's going to be good enough at 5K. But I think that there are other options that you can go towards if you're looking at your lineup. You're like, yeah, this is probably a little bit more chalky than I like. What's some chalk that I can pivot off of to get leverage. Obviously, the most leverage you can get is fading the jockey's player on the slate. So you could do that with Clarkson, with some other guys in the slate, and Bogdanovic being one of them.
Yeah, I like it. I pulled the splits in 5 games without Mike Conley active this season. Clarkson, really no change. Averages about 1 less DraftKings points per minute. However you say that, with talking about 1. Usage rate does go up to over 29%, which is nice, but 15.2 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists per game. That's nothing. Nothing but incremental change. In our bad way, he actually sees a drop in a lot of his production. I still think he's a fine play, but I think if I'm willing to fade, like whether I'm fading him or Trent Forrest, I'd be more inclined to fade Jordan Clarkson because of what Trent Forrest opens up on your lineup. So let's talk about the main guys, Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. Mitchell's been playing on another level lately, over 32% usage rate over his last 6 games. He's scoring the ball at will, and obviously now gets a team without their best perimeter defender in Lou Dort. Sub 10K, do you like Donovan Mitchell on this slate?
I do. It definitely comes down to what other Utah players I'm using, because if I have Forrest and Bogdanovic and maybe even Clarkson, like I'm probably not going to like completely load up on them. But in terms of how I want to construct the lineup, it'll probably be broken down between deciding who I want up at the top, and that's probably going to be a lot based off of how many Jazz players I have. So I think there are some guys up in this, I guess 9 to 10K range that you can make cases for over Donovan Mitchell, and then even a couple of guys a little bit below him. But he is my favorite one in between 8K and sub 10K.
Yeah.
I guess
Okay.
that's the range that I'm looking at. He would be my favorite guy in this range. But let's say I have, like I mentioned, Clarkson and Forrest, or Bogdanovic and Forrest. I can definitely see myself going in a different tier. But overall, in that range, that mid tier, Mitchell is my favorite.
Yeah, I like it as well. And then there's Rudy Gobert, who we know 8.5, $800 cheaper than Donovan Mitchell. Oklahoma City's gotten brutalized by centers all season. We know this. At 8.5, though, how inclined are you to pay for Rudy Gobert, which, at least in my opinion, with Nikola Jokic on the slate, I don't think one person on the slate comes within 10, maybe 15 points of his ceiling. I just don't know if I can prioritize Gobert with Jokic on the slate. Do you feel differently?
No, I feel the same way. I mean, if I'm going to prioritize a spend up on Utah, it's going to be Mitchell. Probably not playing those guys together. Not that I think that they're like terrible together. I just think that in terms of breaking it down, in terms of ceiling, and then in terms of the position, if I was going to roster a Jazz player, that was going to be expensive. And the reason why I talk about only probably wanting to play one of them is because of the blowout risk. Like if the game does blow out, there's a chance that Mitchell could have a monster game and sort of be the reason it blows out. And I guess Gobert could be that way too, but I probably don't want both of them because of that potential risk.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do agree with you. I prefer Donovan Mitchell over Clarkson. So we like Donovan Mitchell. We're okay with Jordan Clarkson. We like Bojan a lot. Winky in chat is saying it might actually be a Rudy Gay night. Do you have any interest in dropping down to Rudy Gay?
I thought about it a little bit. I don't hate it, but I'm a little worried about his minutes here. Like I think that there's a chance that he has a tough time getting a ton of minutes, especially if the game goes sideways. Like if the game blows out, he's probably not going to be getting any minutes, really, any significant minutes anyway. So that's an issue for him, for me. And then obviously the lack of minutes as of late is a big problem. And I think that despite some of the injury stuff here, there's still some other guys that they can go to for minutes here. Like I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker could get some minutes. House could get some minutes. So I probably stay away from Rudy Gay at this point, but I guess if he's able to get the minutes, he's a guy that can get it done on a per-minute basis. I'm just not optimistic that he gets a ton of minutes.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a fair analysis. So let's move to Oklahoma City side of the ball. We did see starters. I want to confirm them. Let me pull up Underdog. It was Shea, Poku, Roby. Let me look at the other 3 so I don't misquote. So it's Shea, Trey Mann, Poku, Basley, and Roby. Shea is $100 cheaper than Ja Morant, 10.4, as the 3rd most expensive player on the slate. What say you about SGA on this slate?
Probably don't play him a lot. And it's not because of him. It's because he's sandwiched in between Donovan Mitchell and John Morant. Like he's the same price as John Morant essentially. And I have John Morant for about 8 more points. So I like Ja a lot more. And then like when you talk about some of the negatives of John Morant, like it's the same thing for Shea. It's the blowout risk, right? And then it's even when you're comparing those two, it's even better for Ja because the matchup is good despite there being a blowout risk. So tough to play SGA. The interesting part is that he is going to be low owned. He's going to be probably 10-15% lower than Mitchell and Morant. So that is some of the appeal. But straight up between those 3 guys, he's third for me because he's more expensive than Mitchell, and I have John Morant just as the much better play.
Yeah, I am lockstep there. I have more interest in the ancillary pieces on the Thunder, primarily Isaiah Roby and Alexei Pokusevsky. There's obviously the fear with rostering a player opposite of Rudy Gobert, but Roby isn't a center that kind of camps around the rim. He takes threes, he stretches to the perimeter, he runs pick and roll, and that's where we know Rudy Gobert can be exploited. Minutes in the last 2, 34 and 37. My only hindrance is that he is only center eligible. So if you're using him and you want Jokic, you have to obviously burn your utility spot. If you don't want to use your utility spot but want to play him, you won't get to Jokic. So let's talk about Roby and then dive into what you think about Pokusevsky on this slate.
Yeah, so as for Roby, like it kind of depends on the site. Like on Fanduel, he's 6'5", like probably not getting to him there. I still think that he could have a good night to where he's fine at that price, but his ceiling is probably like where you're feeling comfortable with paying for him at that price. Pokusevsky, though, kind of a similar thought, right? To where, he's 5,300 on both sides. I have him for about 25 minutes. And they're both really good on a per minute basis, both right around 0.95, 0.97 fantasy point per minute. So I think that they're both okay. It's just kind of like you need a ceiling game for you to feel like they are strong plays, right? And that could be fine because it's only a 5-game slate, so you might not need a whole lot anyway. But that's kind of how I feel about that. But that's how I feel about Trey Mann as well, and somewhat even Darius Bazley. I probably feel better about Bazley than Roby at this point. Like I actually have Roby projected for more points than Bazley, but I have Bazley for more minutes, and he's a little bit cheaper on FanDuel, so that's kind of how I'm breaking that down between those 3 guys. I guess if I had to rank them, it would probably be Bazley, Roby, and then Poku on DraftKings. But on FanDuel, it would probably be Bazley, Poku, and then Roby.
So Bazley is the overwhelming favorite for you of those 3. And let me check your ownership because I haven't looked at the Thunder ownership yet, but I feel like Bazley would probably be the lowest owned of those 3, correct?
On DraftKings, yeah. On FanDuel, he's the most popular, but on DraftKings, least popular. Yep.
Okay, so Poku's coming at 12%. Oh, Bazley's coming at 14 or 15, and then Roby's coming in at.
Oh yeah, sorry, I was looking at Trey.
15 as well. Interesting. So Bazley's so cheap and 31. Yeah, I like that call quite a bit. Do you like Trey Mann in this game? If you're not really on SGA, does that make you like Trey Mann anymore or no?
Definitely not on FanDuel. He's 6,200 over there. So I don't really like him over there. On DraftKings, he's fine. He's better, but now he's going to be popular. I was looking actually at Mann's ownership when I thought I was looking at Poku. So Poku's 12 and Mann's almost 19% right now. That's if he's gonna be the most popular Thunder player. Like I'm not like itching to play Trey Mann. I just don't feel that way about him. Like again, he's very similar to those other guys where they're all priced at their ceiling. So sure, he can have a strong game and be right around paying off that price tag, and it's not going to kill you because it's a 5-game slate. But I just don't feel like it's like a spot where I'm like kicking myself because I didn't play him a whole lot. And I also think that there could be several times where it's like he destroys your lineup because if he's not scoring, he's actually been rebounding pretty well as of late, but I don't know if that's something I want to continuously rely on. So if he's not going to score a ton of points, he could also fail pretty easily. He had 8 turnovers last game. Like that could also really hinder your lineup, especially on FanDuel. So FanDuel definitely no for me. DraftKings, I think he's okay, but a guy I'm totally fine with fading.
Yeah. So would you rather play him or Jordan Clarkson, understanding the ownership with Clarkson?
It would be Clarkson for me. I just think, even though he's going to be more popular, the ceiling is just, I think he can realize the ceiling a little bit more, and I think it's just higher in general.
Yeah, I agree. So let's move on. Unless you have anything else on the Thunder you want to hit on?
No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. So we're making good time right now. Next game on the slate, Toronto at Cleveland. This is probably the most attractive game to watch on the slate. Cleveland 4.5-point home favorites. Toronto coming in with a 210 total. Fred VanVleet and Malachi Flynn out. OG Anunoby remains out. Scotty Barnes going to be starting at point guard. This is the Raptors. I think they're either 7th game in 9 days or 8th game in 10 days. They've been playing a lot of basketball lately. Helps me out a lot because I have 40% Scotty Barnes and the rest of my best ball teams. But let's start with Scotty Barnes at point guard. 7K feels like it's getting to be a fair price, but I still think there's a lot of ceiling potential there. I assume he comes in pretty high owned. What are your thoughts on Scotty Barnes, and then kind of segue into what else you like about Toronto?
Yeah, so I think the point guard news, like the fact that he's starting at point guard, might actually inflate his ownership a little bit more. Like the price I thought originally would keep some people off of him, because like you have Gary Trent right there as well, and then on FanDuel, like you're getting into the range where you can just find a little bit more salary and just have Pascal Siakam. Like Siakam again on FanDuel is probably really tough for me not to play. He's 8,100, but Barnes I still think is a strong play, and I'm a little torn about his ownership because I have him projecting fairly low, but part of me thinks that just the fact that he's going to be starting at point guard, like people eat that up. So I think that he'll probably get a little bit more ownership because of that. But also, the model has him a little bit lower. So if that's going to be the case, that's super interesting. But I think people might be focusing on some other Raptors. I think Gary Trent will be popular. I think even Chris Boucher is going to get a good amount of ownership as well, which I don't mind him either. Like we've seen plenty of times where guys like Boucher and Precious, actually even Thad Young, will get minutes even though someone that you would think is indirect to their playing time. But they just shift everyone up. So, Barnes is going to play the 1, Trent the 2. Siakam could get a lot of time at the 3. And now with everyone shifting up, we saw this, I think like 2 months ago or so when I think it was VanVleet and I think it was Anunoby out, and we saw all these guys getting massive minutes. So I think that there's a real chance that Precious and Boucher play mid to upper 20s, maybe even one of them touches 30. And I think that there's a chance behind those guys, Thad Young and Kem Birch, still could get 18 to 20 as well. So I think that there's just a lot of minutes to go around for this team.
Yeah, I mean, and Boucher's only 3.9, so that does mitigate a lot of the potential risk regarding playing time. I do like Scotty Barnes quite a bit, especially if you are a cash game player. I think he's a very safe play. What about Delano Banton? Minimum price. He's expected to get backup point guard minutes and share point guard time with Scotty Barnes. I think they said Pascal Siakam. They didn't even mention Gary Trent. Banton being $100 less than Trent Forrest, obviously not starting. Do you have interest? Is that a potential pivot for you? Or are you completely staying away from Banton, assuming he doesn't start?
Yeah, so I'm kind of torn on this because I think that they can definitely work around giving him a ton of minutes because they can use Barnes and Trent and Siakam as ball handlers. But I also think that there's a world where they could use him as well as their backup point guard, like just pretty exclusively, where then he could potentially get into that 20-minute range, and that's where he has a pretty good amount of upside, in my opinion. So I'm a little torn on it. He's not a safe play in my opinion, but he is one that does come with some upside. And if you're doing it, I would recommend trying to build out some rules in the optimizer to say if you have maybe like one of Birch, Banton, and then whatever other bench guy, Boucher, whatever. Maybe not Boucher in that group, but like Precious and Thad Young, because even though those guys aren't the same position, again, with the shifting of people up and down in terms of their rotation, I think that they could affect each other. So probably only playing one of these like secondary bench guys, probably between Precious, Thad, Kem Birch, and Banton. But I mean, Birch I don't really have that much interest in anyway, but Banton, Precious, and Thad are the guys that I think have the ceilings if they get the minutes.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. We just got Jazz starters. Donovan Mitchell listed at point guard per underdog, but Trent Forrest, Bojan, Royce O'Neal, and Rudy Gobert. So no surprises just with Forrest jumping into the starting lineup in place of Mike Conley. So I'm kind of out on Delano Banton. If he starts, I think he's a fine play, but I think there is a lot of risk because this is still a pretty deep team, even without Malachi Flynn, because so many of their forwards, like you said, will shift up and handle the ball. I like Gary Trent here a lot. Javi in chat saying all of Thad, Boucher, and Precious could be optimal. I don't see that being. I don't think all of them will be in an optimal because of how much they eat into each other, but I think one of them definitely could be. Look at the other side of the ball. Cleveland, Toronto's a difficult matchup, but at the same time, you're missing Fred VanVleet, who is their best defensive player on the perimeter, and OG, a respectable defender. So that frees up Darius Garland, who got a pretty hefty price jump, probably 3 games too late. But then you have a cast of players that are good fantasy producers in good spots. Karis LeVert hasn't been ruled out yet, but he is listed as doubtful. And then Rajon Rondo also doubtful. So assuming they sit, do you have any interest in the Cleveland side of this game?
I think Garland is okay. Like he's probably he kind of reminds me of like Shea. I know they're completely different prices, but he's kind of in a spot where I don't think a ton of people will play him. But then there's also some guys in that price range that I think people will kind of flock to. So I think it'll be a little bit lower on the ownership. And this game is close. So like if those other 2 games that we talked about blow out and Garland is just in a close game where he's playing 36 minutes, he's probably gonna be better than those guys, just because he's been very good on a permanent basis. The usage over the last month has been at like 32%. So the numbers look really good for Garland. The assist rate is also way up as of late, partially because he went in 17 dimes last game. I think it was it 17? 19. Sorry,
19.
How dare I short side him there? But so the assist rate may be a little bit skewed after that game, but it looks really good still. And again, it's a close game, so it might sound crazy, but even though this game is probably the worst environment on the slate based on pace and all that stuff that we like to look at. I mean, both teams are bottom 4 in pace, but the fact that if the game just stays close and these guys actually get to maximize their minutes, it could be the best game.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think from this Cleveland side, like Darius Garland at 8K flat on Fanduel is one of my favorite guard plays on the slate. I just think that's simply too cheap. And then I don't mind some of the bigs, but I just, with the forward value, whether it be on Oklahoma City, you have the mid-range guys with Scotty Barnes and Siakam and Trent on the other side of this game. I just don't see myself prioritizing Mobley, Allen, or Love. On slates like this where I don't have an overwhelming infatuation with one of them, I tend to just like to slot in Kevin Love in a GPP because of his permanent upside is some of the best on the slate. Otherwise, I'm not really that interested in this Cleveland team. So we can move on to the New Orleans Pelicans taking on the Denver Nuggets in Denver at Ball Arena. 3.5-point favorites are the Nuggets, 229-point total. Let's start with New Orleans. Where do you want to start?
I guess to start, like it's a very similar situation to the Cleveland game, right? Where might not be the sexiest game in terms of pace. Both teams are in the bottom 10, but 3.5-point spread last I checked. So game staying close and just these guys capping out on their minutes could lead to good things here. So as far as the Pelican side, the first guy that sticks out to me is over on FanDuel, Jackson Hayes. The minutes have been really strong for him as of late, and we know that even like since he just first popped into the NBA, really, he's been a good permanent guy. He has the shot blocking upside, and he's a good job. He does a good job of getting steals here and there as well. And now that he's getting some pretty consistent minutes, only 22 last game, but he played 26 or more in 3 of his last 4 prior to last game. So Jackson Hayes, if he's going to continue to get these kinds of minutes, I think he has the upside to pay off this 4.8 price tag over on FanDuel, and he's still power forward eligible over there as well, which goes a long way. And then after that, I think that you're in this range with it's kind of like McCollum and Ingram are kind of similar to Garland, where I think that they have ceilings here and they could both be very strong plays just because the game stays close and they play 36 minutes. I think I prefer McCollum over Ingram slightly. He's just been fantastic as of late and he's getting it done in several ways. But in terms of like McCollum versus Garland, probably prefer Garland a little bit, but over on FanDuel anyway. But I guess on DraftKings, I might prefer McCollum. But outside of that, that's kind of my interest in this game.
Yeah, that makes sense. We did just get word. So both Karis LeVert and Rajon Rondo, as expected, have been ruled out. So on the one guy that's, I don't want to say sticks out to me, I like the Jackson Hayes call quite a bit. He's never really owned, and he is a very good permanent producer. Against somewhat of a bigger front court, I think we could see a brief uptick in minutes for 4.9. I think it's a very low risk play. Devante Graham at 3.7 is interesting to me. I don't love it because his minutes are pretty solid between the 18 to 22 range. hasn't been playing well, but we know he can get hot. And at 3-7, even off the bench, it's hard for me to completely write that play off in multi-entry tournaments. Otherwise, I think on this slate, I do prefer Brandon Ingram to CJ McCollum simply because of the discount. No interest in Joe Val, even at 7-3 going up against Jokic. Speaking of Jokic, let's flip to the other side of this game. Is Jokic a priority for you, considering at least what I think, like his ceiling may be 20 to 25 points higher than the next highest on the slate?
Yeah. I mean, I think if the game stays close, Ja can not like creep up to
Yeah.
being
I know what you
where
mean.
Jokic is, but he could probably be inside 10 or so.
Yeah.
But I do agree, like on a routine basis, where if the games are gonna play out like Vegas thinks they are, then yeah, I think that uh Jokic does have a higher ceiling, but than anybody, and he has a 6. Morant is very close. Like John Morant does have a very good
Yeah, I
projection.
agree.
I just feel a little bit uncomfortable about his projection because of the blowout. Like, and when I say close, he's like 6 points off, but that's like close for Jokic standards, in my opinion, because Jokic just runs away with everybody. But in terms of when they have their complete ideal scenarios, yeah, I think Jokic definitely is going to have probably 15, 20 point higher ceiling than most of these guys. I agree with that. And, I know people might be worried about the missed game last time out, but I mean, if anything, that's just a night off, in my opinion. He's been probable all day. I think he's going to be totally fine. It was an illness, so I think he's going to be good to go. And he's been struggling as of late. So maybe the day off, and then obviously yesterday with the day off, maybe that helped him kind of recuperate. The Fanduel price is under 11K. So
Yeah.
on Fanduel, you probably just play him over there.
Yeah.
I don't know how you build a ton of lineups without him. Like, sure, if you're playing 50 plus lineups, you're probably going to have some without him. But if you're doing like 10, you're probably going to have him like 7. I guess it might be a little bit different because he's center only, and obviously only get to play one center on FanDuel, but I don't really think many centers compare to him in terms of how they grade out as plays for me. So Jokic is definitely a priority. I guess on DraftKings, it could be a little bit more up in the air for me because he is a lot more expensive than the next couple of guys. Like, he's 2K more than Ja. So that's where the discussion kind of comes into play. It's the price, but in terms of his overall ceiling, if you have the salary, if you're using these value guys that project pretty well, then yeah, Jokic I think is tough to not prioritize today.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement, because if we see one of those games where Jokic goes just ape shit, he's going to be in the optimal because no one's going to touch what his ceiling is when he does do that.
Yeah.
So I like Jokic a lot. If you aren't playing Jokic, is there anyone on this team that you think would be wise to leverage with? Will Barton has been inconsistent, but his price has come down quite a bit. Aaron Gordon has been inconsistent. Price has also come down. Then you have like DeMarcus Cousins, who, if you think hypothetically Jokic is still going to be scaled back a little bit, like, do you want to play Boogie? I don't, because of his price jump, but talk to me about the rest of this Nuggets team.
Honestly, I don't really like anybody else. Like, even if Jokic doesn't get there, and you probably assume that other Denver players are benefiting because of that. Like, I still don't know if the ceiling's there, because like Will Barton and Aaron Gordon and like even Monty Morris, like, they're just not getting minutes really. Like it's just not a spot where they're gonna go out there and play massive minutes. Like, Barton hasn't played 30 minutes since the 24th of February. So I mean, he's just not getting a ton of minutes, and that game he played 32, and prior to that he hadn't played any more than 32 minutes since Valentine's Day. So he's just not getting a ton of run. So even if Jokic were to have a bad game, like, I don't even know how he would need to have like a massively efficient game to capitalize on the kinds of minutes. And it's the same deal for Gordon and even Monty Morris. Like, they have bench guys that they don't mind giving good minutes to. So at that rate, like, these guys are just out of play for me. I guess you could make the case a bit more on FanDuel because they're all like $1,000 cheaper on FanDuel compared to DraftKings outside of Monty Morris. But Barton and Gordon, I guess, are better on FanDuel. But even still over there, I just have a really tough time getting there because obviously Jokic is also cheaper over there. So probably just a pass for me.
Yep, I do not disagree. So we'll hit on the last game for about 10-ish minutes, and then we can dive into about 15 minutes of questions and just strategy talk. New York at the Staples Center taking on the Clippers of Los Angeles. 5.5-point home favorites are the Clippers. 220.5-point total. I don't believe there's any big news in this game. Let me double check. Um, Obviously, you have the obvious out. Derrick Rose remains out. Norman Powell remains out. Quentin Grimes out. Nerlens Noel is out. I believe Obi and Taj Gibson's doubtful. Obi is out. So there is some front court flexibility in terms of minutes for this Knicks team. So let's start with the New York side. Is there anybody in specific that you have your eye on?
I saw him talked about in Discord quite a bit, and I like him a lot too. And it's Mitch Robinson. I like him quite a bit here. He's definitely the guy that I would be probably looking at if I weren't playing Jokic on FanDuel, and then on DraftKings you can play them both. So, Mitch Robinson, the only issue he's ever really had is foul trouble, and that inevitably leading to the lack of minutes. That's still a thing here. Like if he gets into foul trouble, they still have ways that they can not play him. Like so, I guess the thought that okay, Taj is out and Noel's out and Obi Toppin's out, like Mitch is automatically going to play 35 minutes like he did last game. That's not true, but there's still like that brings that ceiling into the equation, right? He played 36 minutes last game. So now that these guys are out, that ceiling game minutes wise is there. And if he does get those minutes, he's going to smash. Like if he gets the run, he's going to have a good game. It's just about the minutes for him. I have him at 29 minutes, but I think that's a conservative projection. But even so, like foul trouble can easily have him play less. But if he doesn't get into foul trouble, I think he's going to play much more than 29 minutes. Maybe like 32 to 34, I think is like a realistic possibility. So at that rate, like you're playing Mitch Rob, and if he was chalky, you probably don't feel great about it. But I have him at sub 10% on DraftKings, 11% on FanDuel, so I have no issue with it. He's probably my favorite play from the Knicks, potentially my favorite play. I like RJ Barrett as well, but he's a little bit more popular than I thought he was coming into the day. I thought Barrett would be low owned, but he's just not looking like that. So Barrett and Robinson are the guys that I like most.
I am all over Mitchell Robinson with you. I was really happy you said that because double centering him and Jokic is my favorite way to go in a single entry right now. Yeah. This is like the Clippers run small when they're facing a team that chooses to run small. Like when it's LeBron running at the 5 against the Lakers or Golden State who will slide someone like out of Porter to a small ball 5 when Draymond's out. They don't ever actively seek out getting Zubats off the floor because he's so productive. New York doesn't have really like they'll run some Randall at center, but with so many fours out as well, they can't really afford to do that unless Mitchell Robinson gets in a lot of foul trouble. So I love Mitchell Robinson. I like both centers in this game quite a bit, but you get a $1,200 discount on Mitchell Robinson, who I would argue has a higher ceiling significantly than Ivica Zubats. So I love Mitchell Robinson. I do like RJ Barrett. 7.9 is a price that I'm kind of surprised to see how popular he is because I thought that would keep people off of him.
Yeah.
He's been the best player on the team this season. I don't think I can endorse Julius Randle. He just has been god-awful this season. The ceiling's there, but if you're spending up at 9.2, I'd rather just move some things around and get to someone like Donovan Mitchell. I think I'd rather have Pascal Siakam than I would Julius Randle. And I'd rather have RJ Barrett in a vacuum than Julius Randle as well. I don't really have much of an interest in the guard value in this game, even with such a thin backcourt. Like Alec Burks at 5'7" has been way too inconsistent for me to trust when like Desmond Bane is sitting right there for $6K, Kevin Porter Jr. for a little more. Quickly at 4'6", kind of the same vein, except I think I'd be more inclined to play Quickly than I would be to Burks. But with all this Utah value, Toronto, all these guys, I just can't do it with any of them. So let's talk about the Clippers side. Do you have any interest in anyone on the Clippers team?
No, not really. On DraftKings, Reggie Jackson 8,700. So, Isaiah Roby out?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, that'll help Baisley and Poku and
quite a bit. Yeah.
But I guess I'll just finish up the Clippers work and then we can go back. But on FanDuel, I think Reggie Jackson's still fine based on his price, but he's going to be very, very popular again. I think there's a couple of other guys in that range that you can play. You mentioned Zubac. I think Zubac is also fine, but Mitch Rob's $1,000 cheaper on DraftKings. He's $2,000 cheaper on FanDuel. So I would just rather go over there on the other side of the game. In terms of other options on DraftKings, Marcus Morris is 5'7". He's actually 5'7" on both sides, but I don't hate him over there. But after that, there's nobody that I'm really going out of my way to prioritize. I guess you can make a case for Kennard at 4K on DraftKings, but from this game, for me, it's basically just Mitch Rob and then potentially Barrett if he's going to be. If I wanted to, just say he's going to be lower owned, I don't mind him at lower ownership, but I would probably be just kind of taking a leap there.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. I think Zubats is my favorite play on this team. I like Reggie Jackson on FanDuel at 7K. Like you said, he's going to be popular. I don't think I could pay 8-7 for him despite how well he's playing. I think I would still rather have a Darius Garland, rather get up to Donovan Mitchell, rather go down to RJ Barrett. Outside of Zubats and Reggie Jackson, I think Amir Coffey's a fine filler at 3.6 if you need. The minutes are there. Not the greatest per minute producer, hovers around 0.7, 0.8. But at the end of the day, like there's still a realistic shot that he could outperform someone like a Trent Forrest for $500 more. So Amir Coffey's one of the values that I am not closed off to. And then Luke Kennard as well. Really, really volatile, as you know. But 4K is a price you can very easily get on top of if his shot is falling. So that we have about 15 minutes now with the so before we go into questions, then let's talk about the Isaiah Roby news. This will leave the Thunder with, I believe, 9 players, I believe. Is Sarr going to start at the 5? Like initially, this is probably a big jump to both Sarr and Darius Bazley and potentially some Poku. What do you make of the Isaiah Roby being out, knowing Derek Favors is also already out?
Yeah, a lot of it's going to depend on the starting lineup for me because, I mean, I guess I wouldn't be that surprised if they just started Poku at the 5 and Bazley at the 4.
Bazley starting at the 4. They put in Aaron Wiggins in the starting lineup. Or excuse me, Bazley starting at the 5.
Okay, so that's kind of what I was also thinking. So with that being the case, Sarr is going to probably get some more minutes, and that's fine, I guess. Like that's actually pretty interesting in terms of him benefiting a couple minutes wise. Like I had him at I think 18 or 19 before the news anyway. So if he's going to pick up 3 or 4 minutes at 3,200 on DraftKings, he could potentially work his way in there. But yeah, the main priorities are Poku and Bazley for me. Still probably not playing Wiggins. Like Wiggins could get 80 minutes, and I just don't know if he would have a good game. Like that guy just is very, very bad.
He doesn't do anything.
he is like in a few years, our Max is going to know of Aaron Wiggins as we knew Tony Snell. Like that's kind of.
Oh, I like that compare. That's a good comp. I like that.
But it's been really bad for him. Like he doesn't do anything with the minutes that he gets, and it's not like it's over a small sample. He's gotten a lot of minutes at times, but it's the big increases for me are for Poku and Bazley, and arguably even more so for Poku, just because I had him at 25 minutes, like struggling to get a ton of minutes. Now, if he gets 30, I think that's huge. But Bazley, I had for 31. If he's going to be in the mid 30s now, like that's a really big upgrade. Those two would definitely get the biggest bumps.
I also think that like Bazley going against Rudy Gobert is a massive disadvantage for Rudy Gobert. Because Bazley's going to draw him out to the perimeter quite a bit and run circles around him. So I currently my single entry has both Poku and Bazley in it, and I don't think there's anything wrong with running that because of how thin Oklahoma City is. We have to remember they're still obviously without Kenrich Williams, and half of their other wings. Does this change your thought at all on Rudy Gobert? Understand that he could have fucking 40 rebounds today.
I guess it sort of does. Like I think it's fine for him, but like I still feel the same way in terms of I'm not playing him and Mitchell. So if I'm gonna play a Jazz player that's expensive, it's probably gonna be Mitchell.
Yeah, I agree. Jake's asking if we can give a minutes projection on anyone on the Thunder. I think are you updating right now or no?
Yep. I should
because I'm in the back end of the API right now, and I'll wait till you update, and then we can give it to him. But yeah, I mean, to Javi's point, I think Gobert can destroy this team, but I still think I much prefer Donovan Mitchell. So we can hit the questions for the next 10 to 12 minutes here. Let me scroll back and see if we missed any. Treyman 5600. Okay, he's a FanDuel player. Triple H. I think okay is the perfect word for it. In my opinion. Like I'm not here. I'm neither here nor there on him. I think you can play him if you want, but
I would much prefer the Jazz guys, Bogdanovic
Yes.
and Clarkson, though.
Yes, for cheaper as well. Pick 2 of Jokic, SGA, Ja, Mitchell, and Garland. Jokic is definitely one of them for me. SGA, Ja, Mitchell, Garland. I think it's Jokic and Ja for me.
Yeah.
If not Ja, then Mitchell. I think I would rank those. I assume salary's not an issue.
Yeah, if salary's not an issue, then it's for sure Jokic and Ja for me.
I think I'm going to list out ranks for him. I think I would go Jokic, Ja, Mitchell, Garland, SGA. I think is what I do. I think you can flip-flop the last two, though, if you really want. If choosing one, Poku or Basley?
Still Basley for me.
Cool. I will tell Anthony right now. Top 2 sneaky plays on FanDuel.
Sneaky plays. Robinson is one for me. But then again, that would mean you're fading Jokic, and then after that, like it's probably like Jaron Jackson for me. I think is one that I like, or CJ McCollum. I think CJ McCollum would be pretty contrarian as well, or RJ Barrett if he's going to be popular. I think RJ Barrett, or sorry, unpopular. So I would say Barrett and Robinson, 2 Knicks.
I like it. I have a DM Scotty Barnes or Gary Trent straight up. That's tough. I think you can go either way.
Barnes for me.
Yeah, it's Barnes for me unless you need the 400. Oh, then they actually had a follow-up question. Gary Trent and Jaron Jackson or Scotty Barnes and Desmond Bane? Ooh. Well, I have Barnes and Bane in my single entry right now, but I like Trent and Jaron Jackson a lot. I think I still lean Bane and Scotty Barnes.
Yeah, I would prefer Bane and Barnes as well.
Gobert or Garland for DK single entry tournament. They already have Donovan Mitchell.
Just one of the two, Gobert or Garland?
Yeah.
Garland for me. Yeah.
Garland. Okay. Let me respond to him. How many OKCs should we have?
I don't know.
think this is a situation where you like go crazy on them. I like having 2 or 1.
Yeah, I would say I guess you like theoretically like you don't need 1. Like you don't need to have 1. Like, but I like probably having at least 1, but probably no more than like 2. I don't think you need to have 3 Thunder. Like I don't think it's that. But things could change. Like I'm giving the bench guys a pretty good amount of minutes. Like I'm giving all 4 bench guys 20 plus minutes. So if that changes and that's wrong, which it very well could be, then it's like Bazley's playing 36 minutes, Poku's playing like 33 minutes, and that's when it's like you need those guys. But if the bench guys do get the run like I have right now, that's when it could change. That's when it's like I don't think that they're like 100% necessary.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I don't. Again, I agree with you. None are necessary. I do really like Darius Bazley, whatever you say his name, and Poku. So I want one of the 2. I slightly prefer Bazley, but I'm okay. I currently have 2 of it or both of them. Precious. Are you
okay with playing both of those guys?
Yep, I am. I don't think because I think how thin they are, like, and because Bazley's playing the 5, I don't think they'll eat. Like they won't negatively correlate too poorly.
This might sound weird, but I think they actually correlate really well because I think if it's a spot where they are inherently going to get more minutes and they're not going to use the bench players as much, then I think both of them will benefit from that.
Yeah.
Like I guess like when they're on the floor, I guess they're probably not going to correlate that well, but their minutes having massive minutes outcomes, like I think those actually correlate pretty well. So I don't mind playing them both because if one of them gets big minutes, the other one probably will as well.
Yeah, I like it. I'm adding a bet to the bet tracker for Scotty Barnes now. Someone said A or B, so I'm going to list off 2 FanDuel lineups. If you need me to repeat something, just let me know. Ja Morant, Reggie Jackson, CJ McCollum, Alec Burks, Evan Fournier, Boyan, Boucher, Jackson Hayes, and Jokic versus Mitchell, Burks, Forrest, McCollum, Marcus Morris, Desmond Bain, Evan Mobley, Jaron Jackson, Julius Randle. It's the one with Jokic for me. Jokic and John Morant, without a question.
Yeah. And I like Jackson Hayes as well. Someone asked the sneaky Fanduel play. I think that Hayes could be a sneaky Fanduel play as well. I like him.
Go on. That's a good one. Herm's asking if the Thunder have 9 bodies.
I have them with 9 right now, yes.
9, yeah. I have and one of those 9 being Lindy Waters, the third, I think, is one of the 9.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I mean, I guess you can't really say 8.5 because they also have Olivier Sarr, Vic Krejci. This is a very bad team. Any Alec Burks love? Think he's been starting at the 1. I definitely don't love Alec Burks. I'm okay with Alec Burks, is kind of how I would put it.
He's gonna be chalky on FanDuel. I don't like more there, but real quick on these Thunder guys,
yep.
So this Vit Krejci guy, that sounds like a hockey player's name. He's played 20 minutes in 3 straight games. He's played 18 minutes in 5 straight. He's probably going to be in there for some pretty good time. Waters played 27 last game. Theo Maledon, who we saw last year at times get some pretty significant run, he played 24 minutes last game. So for me, it almost seems difficult to assume that these 4 bench guys aren't going to get 20 plus minutes, all of them. So at that rate, you have Shea in the mid 30s, you have Basley and Mann in the low to mid 30s, you have Poku right around 29 or 30. That's kind of their ceiling, in my opinion. If they're going to continue to play these bench guys significant minutes like they have been.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Herm is saying, if the Thunder have 9 bodies, I wouldn't run a single lineup without at least 1. I think almost every lineup I make will have 2 or 3, but at least 1. This is the Blazers from last night, but slightly different. Prices are up, but players' skill is up as well. I don't necessarily disagree. Aaron Wiggins or Trent Forrest? I'm still on Trent Forrest. Aaron Wiggins is the definition of Fitbit.
Yeah. I'm not. Yeah, Forrest easily for me.
Let's see. Cavs starters, no surprises. DeJounte Murray questionable for tomorrow. I'm going to see if other questions come. Okay. Forrest and Terrence Mann or Alec Burks. Well, one, do you prefer Terrence Mann or Alec Burks?
Oh, that's tough. What did he say? What site?
DK single entry.
I guess Mann, I suppose.
So is it Forrest and Terrence Mann or Clarkson and Boucher?
No, sorry. I prefer Burks. Sorry.
So that'd be Forrest and Burks or Clarkson and Boucher. It's Clarkson and Boucher for me.
Yes, I agree.
Clarkson or KPJ on FanDuel. I guess he has money to play with.
That's a
good question. I think I have both in my FanDuel single entry right now. I think in a vacuum, I think I still prefer Clarkson.
I would say
that's tough. That's really close.
It is close though. And just I would just use as a tiebreaker. Porter's gonna be lower owned probably. So
it's a good point. Very good point.
So Jake just said 9 buys, but the difference is they don't really want to play Krejci, Water, and Sarr. They've all been getting 20 plus minutes consistently. They all played 20 plus minutes last game. So I don't know. They probably don't want to play them. They're not goods. They probably don't, but you don't really have a choice. Sarr's the one he might not get, but Krejci's played 20 plus minutes in 5 straight games, or 18 plus minutes in 5 straight games. Sorry, and 20 plus in the last 3. I don't know how losing players would cause them to lose out on their opportunity to play minutes. It doesn't really. He played 27 minutes last game. He played 29 3 games ago. So yeah, I think these guys are going to get minutes for sure, which hurts the guys like Basley and Mann and all those guys, but they still have a ceiling for minutes.
Yeah, I agree. Triple H said Hayes or Boucher. I'm Jackson Hayes over Chris Boucher today.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. I would get Jackson Hayes or Poku. That's interesting. I think Poku's ceiling's higher. I think I would lean Poku.
I got Hayes on. I like Hayes more on FanDuel.
This is a DK question. So Poku,
yeah, I'll take.
Yeah,
Poku
what's Hayes' price on FanDuel?
He's 4,800, but he gets he's so good at racking up blocks and steals to where he's. I mean, Poku's not bad at that either, though.
That's a good point, though.
That's where Hayes really thrives, in my opinion.
Especially on a site like FanDuel, obviously. Someone said straight up Darren Jackson or Desmond Bane. I straight up prefer Darren Jackson. It's risky, but
yeah, I think Jackson has a higher ceiling. Bane's probably safer.
Yep. Poku or Boucher on FanDuel. Poku.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Bane's coming in for higher ownership than I expected him to. Okay, my single entry is good to go. And Mitch Rob, we trust. Here we go.
Yeah.
I don't see any other question in the Discord. Yeah, person. I'm just scrolling to see if we missed any. We said Trey Mann already. Would you rather Şengün or Boucher? Şengün for me. I'm actually trying to find a way to get Şengün in my DK right now. So
I'll take Boucher slightly there, but I think Şengün still has a monster ceiling.
I agree. That's weird. Someone just said Scotty. I have another DM. Scotty Barnes and Desmond Bane or CJ McCollum and Şengün. I prefer Desmond Bane and Scotty Barnes. Why is it not loading? I'm reading what Jake said. 2 games blew out.
I mean, yeah, if the game stays close,
yeah, I agree.
Then they can for sure capitalize on those minutes. But like
the odds of it staying close are pretty damn low.
Yeah, and it was a 15-point spread before losing their starting center. So, I mean, I don't think Roby's going to move the needle a ton in terms of moving the line, but still, like,
oh god, in terms of trying Wiggins 30 burger night. I'll buy any Ricky. You have my word. I'll buy you a burger if this happens. You have a cheeseburger on me, hamburger, whatever you like. I don't know who eats hamburgers, but shake.
I prefer myself a hamburger over cheeseburger.
God damn it, Kyle! It's such a bad take. At least you don't say supper.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not 94 years old.
Yeah. Okay. So that bet is locked in. We are at lock right now. So I can pull up ownership if you'd like. There you go.
Do it.
Because I think 2 or 3 games locked. I think 2 games locked. Oh god, you have people pissed off about your cheeseburger take now. Wait. Now that someone said beans, where's Easy B been?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he moved to Texas and got like I don't know.
He's still in Discord, so I'm gonna tag him and see what happens. He's our server booster. Okay. Where's the main contest on here?
You got any free bets you want to give out to the people in the bet tracker for today?
Yeah, let me look at my bet. Obviously not the games that just locked. I just put in Scotty Barnes over 4.5 assists. This one I like.
I like it.
A decent amount. If he's going to be playing point guard, he has a pretty high peripheral ceiling. But I only have 2 bets in for the night games. I'm going to go add some in. I'll only hop off stream for the later games. Do you have any free bet? Hey, my free bet was a Jay Crowder one that hit on Twitter today. So I'm a free bet out for the day.
I need to start just having doing the free bets every day because I
Yours
find
hit?
myself like making sure it's going to be a winner, and so I've given 4 out, I think either 3 or 4, and they've all hit. And I think a lot of them have been. I think 4 of them, 3 out of the 4 of them have been Cleveland players. 1 Darius Garland, 2 Jared Allen. So betting on Cleveland players and doing the free bets have been successful for me. So Evan Mobley over 13.5 points will be 1, and then Mitch Rob over 8.5 points. Those will be my
I'm adding that Mitch Rob. I might, if that's 8.5, I'm gonna add Mitch Rob double.
Yeah, I wonder if it went up. I did get it a little bit ago, but let's see.
I do have Zubac's double on my bet slip. I'm just giving away my whole fucking bet slip right now. Okay, so if you want ownership, I have it in front of me.
Okay, which games?
So we Memphis, Houston, and then Utah and OKC locked.
Okay, so I'm gonna, and this is DraftKings, right?
Yep, this is the main $15 entry on DraftKings 100K first.
All right, so I'm gonna guess Clarkson is number 1.
Clarkson's number 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did Forrest get over him?
Forrest, number 1. You want to take a guess?
42.
38.6. You're close.
Okay.
Then we got number 2. Clarkson was 3, remember. Clarkson's 3 at 31.7%, so number 2. I was kind of surprised by this and a bit disappointed now.
Is it Bane?
It is. That pisses me off.
Yeah, we had
33.2%. You were close on that projection, I feel like.
Yeah, we had Bane at 32 at the third highest.
Number 4.
Donovan Mitchell?
Mitchell's number 6.
Wow. Is it Jaron Jackson?
Jaron Jackson's 5.
Is it Alec Burks?
Alec Burks is... I can't find Alec Burks.
Is it DeAnthony Melton? Whoa, Alec Burks is that low? Okay, then it's got to be Ja.
Am I missing Alec Burks, or is he not in the ownership? Hold on.
Oh, he isn't locked yet. That's my bad.
Oh, yeah. That's why I was like, what the hell? He's a Laking.
Yeah, he's a Laking. Yeah, that was my bad.
It's all good. We still need number 3 before we can get out of here. Where's the double? Fucking... You want a hint or no?
Yeah, give me a hint.
I mean, it's going to give it away. It's a Grizzly.
I think I named all the Grizzlies that I thought between Jaron Jackson, and Melton.
Yeah, you named them already. It's none of them.
Where?
Wait, it's Ja. Sorry. You didn't name Ja. It is Ja.
Okay.
Ja at 29.7%. Basley 23, Poku 19. Rudy Gobert held 18%. Donovan Mitchell 25.7. SGA 11. Christian Wood 11. Roby held 4.94% in the main. So that's some free rake.
Yeah.
Daniel House got over 1%. Interesting.
What did Şengün come in at?
Şengün is at 14.45%.
Okay. I don't hate that.
I don't hate it either. I think Raptors didn't lock yet. I think Boucher might be a little higher or lower. I mean, I don't know though, because I'd want whoever's lower owned between those two, and I thought it was going to be Şengün, but now I feel like I may be wrong.
I think Boucher will be higher owned.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alexander Walker for all the money.
Interesting.
Wow. Are you meaning Gildas Alexander, the cousin? They're cousins.
They actually?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I'm pretty sure. I'm like 99.
Jake Gildas Alexander. Yeah, I guess there is some relation there. Interesting. Well, 5-game slate. Next game locks in 25 minutes. Kyle, I appreciate you taking some time on this fine Sunday evening. For Joe, for Kyle, thank you guys for joining us. Kyle, do you have the Beans video up or no?
I do. It's ready to go.
Let's go. Well, as always,
let's get these beans.